That makes me a little scared for you, Ben, because Crim's taste in anime is generally pretty poor. So,
oh yeah, I mean that extends beyond anime.
Oh, weird! I didn't know I brought everybody on to roast me. Hold on, wait a minute.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Nii-San Podcast. We are now on episode 24, and what's up, guys? I'm Xell, as you guys know, John Xell Kim, and with me, of course, is Crim, the Asian Avenger. But we also have a third face for the very first time.
Oh.
You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ben Ulmer, or Bengineering, as I guess I'm known in the internet spaces, and I, amongst many things, do the Twitch streaming and the YouTubing stuff, which you can find at me doing stuff over on my YouTube or Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Bengineering, as well as doing stuff with a group called Loading Ready Run. We do magic content, and there was actually an anime podcast, I think, at one point.
What?
At one point, yeah. There's just like a whole bunch of stuff, and that's both at Twitch and YouTube at Loading Ready Run. And apparently now I can add to my list of things of first guest on the Niisan.
Hey, that's a shiny badge.
Yeah.
You'll get something in the mail later.
I'll make you a plaque, Ben, and I'll mail it to you.
It's gonna go front and center. The Bidoof pillow, out of here, man. Right there, Niisan.
Okay. If I make you a plaque, you'll use it. All right, cool.
100%.
I just want this plaque also to just have Crim's molded face on.
And it'll just say
Just
Ben.
Crim's face.
3D printed.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so as Xell had mentioned, we're here hanging out with Ben, and Ben, you also had mentioned that like at some point there was a lure anime podcast. Maybe it's time we bring it back. But yeah.
I was never part of it or anything like that, but it's just,
But you will be now.
I get to talk
You
about.
could be.
You're
Yeah, the power is
spearheading
yours.
this. You see, we're bringing it back. But so that means that you've definitely dabbled in the anime life. So
That's a good way of putting it.
yes, you've dabbled. Had a taste, just a taste. So, you actually did watch a decent amount of anime, and I had found out recently we'd been chatting, and you were like, hey, you had just kind of started getting back into it, right? You had stepped out of the game, or as Xell would say, thankfully. but then unfortunately,
Weeb's gross.
But now you've fallen back into the pit trap, like the trap here. But now that you're back into the world of anime, I'm very curious. What's your anime background? I
get to lure you,
Tell you. I mean, I've got you
How'd
as
you get
my
started?
background, but what is your background, right?
Right, before I got the Sharingan and the whole thing. So I mean, it's interesting. So I got into anime when I was a young Ben. And I remember the first anime I ever saw is actually my favorite anime, which is an anime called Beck Mongolian Chop Squad, which is it's an oldie. I guess it's not like Evangelion or like oldie, but I ended up checking it out because I was on a ski trip with my family. And I don't know how to ski at all, but they love doing it. And I face planted into a tree during our outing. And I was like, I'm just going to go back to our room and hang out. And so I went back and I turned on the TV and the first channel that was on was MTV. And this was back, I don't know if they still do, but MTV had like a huge block where they showed anime. I think there was Beck Mongolian Chop Squad. There was Berserk, I think, was on there. Oh yeah.
Wait. On MTV?
How did I miss all of this?
What?
I don't know. So it was just I turned it on, and it's the scene where basically they're getting up on stage to sing to a festival, and they sing a song called "Follow Me," and it just is so good. And I'm like this impressionable youth who hears this like awesome music, and at this point, the only anime I was aware of was like Naruto and all those kinds of things that didn't like ring true for me. But then seeing this, I was like, oh, anime can be more than just ninjas.
Wait, it didn't ring true for you? How?
Well, it's just, I don't know. I mean, seeing from the back, like I've got a whole bunch of records. The music thing is what grabbed me.
Ah, gotcha.
So then I got into Naruto.
It all went back to Naruto. This is it all leads there. No, that's so rad. First off, I have to applaud that. Because, I think Xell and we did an episode, I think, was it like our favorites growing up? Like some of our favorites? And I had mentioned I love Beck too, and Beck is, I don't know, maybe Beck just isn't that popular amongst like, I think our like age group, right? Because I think it was maybe a little bit too old.
It's slow.
It's
a slow burn,
But like it's
Dude, back when I was a kid, when Beck was coming out, I was like, I just want to see people fight,
Yeah.
Like I didn't have time for drama and character development.
Yeah.
I didn't want that. Get out of here.
Nobody got punched through a wall. Hold on. What is this?
Exactly.
Like, I think when I had actually found Beck, it was right when, I forgot the name of the character, but, he was singing to the moon. And it was just like that was a great scene. And as you know, all three of us here have like a pretty deep music background. And you know what? I'm actually not surprised that, of course, you and I, Ben, like we also have like a lot of overlapping music, as I can tell by your records there. Okay, we would like Beck. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
That's the thing though about like Beck was weird though, because like you're saying, Xell, is like, in place of what I think a lot of animes were doing at the time, which was like, maybe like flashback scenes of action or any of that kind of thing, it like replaced it with very slow scenes, like scenes where, for 5 to 8 seconds, nobody was talking and they're just like, and very like scenic exterior shots and all that kind of jazz. Right. So yeah, it's certainly like a different one, but that's what ended up really, really grabbing me. And, then I just dived like full on into it to the point where I had like a Shonen Jump subscription that my mom got me for my birthday and whatnot. So I was like reading that. Yeah, I mean, and, at the time too, I think I was like just getting into like Yu-Gi-Oh and whatnot as like my first. I was like, I'm done with this Pokemon thing. Yu-Gi-Oh is where it's at. And I was like, oh, they have a manga too. Cool. And like reading that whole arc and stuff was it was cool. Like I think the first arc I ever read for the Yu-Gi-Oh manga was the one where what's his name, the guy with the ring, the Millennium Ring that keeps
not Bakugo,
Bakura.
But Bakura.
Yeah. Where he like shrinks everybody onto like the board, and like everybody's like playing like their favorite creatures or whatever, and like people chose like really good ones like Flame Swordsman and stuff like that.
Good.
And then good. Yeah. And then Tristan's like, my favorite character, Cyber Soldier, who's like this like weak ass like dude. And they're just like the whole episode I think is just like them trying to protect Tristan because he picked like the worst character of all time.
Tristan got carried. He was literally there for recaps in the show.
Yeah, he just gets sidelined and then just like, just explain what's happening, Tristan, because you're not worth anything.
It was to be a body and it was to punch a giant fake boulder when they were running away from the zombie dude. And that was
I
all
love that
Tristan
scene, by the
way. Those biceps of Chris Redfield.
He studied at the Chris Redfield school.
Dude, Tristan is so whack. I don't even know why he showed up. Like he should have been trimmed. Like, I'm very curious to listeners, watchers at home. I'm very curious if anyone was like, Tristan's my favorite character.
Oh, absolutely not. If anything, people are like, who? I don't remember. Who's that guy?
I feel like there's like a support group for people whose favorite characters are Tristan and Mokuba. No, they were just there. They're just like, hey, man, you can come in.
Next week? Yeah, next week.
Yeah. Meanwhile, all the Joey stands are like, yeah, get out of here.
Time wizard.
Polymerization. Oh my god.
Oh man, but as we like that's actually like a super like awesome way to start anime too. Like usually you don't hear Beck, right? That's just one thing that I don't often hear. I hear Dragon Ball. I hear, stuff like that.
Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Some of like, I guess what you would call like the mainstream stuff. But like, I think what's interesting is you started with Beck, which I think most people would say is more of like an older taste kind of thing, I think a lot of like older people like that style of anime where it's more drama. I'm not calling you old. I'm so sorry. I phrased it so horribly.
No.
Anyways,
don't worry. I get called young way too often. So I'm actually super digging this elder Ben kind of vibe we got going.
We brought you on here so that we could project our elderness on you.
That's why we're the Niisan, because we're old. We're the older brothers, No, but it's cool because you started with Beck, you got into some of like Yu-Gi-Oh and whatnot, and then what sort of brought you out of it? Because I think kind of what you were saying was that like you didn't really relate with some of the characters from like Naruto and whatnot, and I assume that's probably what brought you out of it. I don't know.
Well, kind of. So like, yeah, I was really like into Naruto, and I did pick up. I didn't super dive into Dragon Ball at all, which is like weird because now I'm just like I want to go back and rewatch the whole thing. But as I was like consuming a lot of anime, I was watching like all this kind of stuff. I'd like pick up D Gray Man and get like super excited. I had FMA and FMA Brotherhood and all those kinds of ones, and just like dive right in. And then I think it was right around the beginning of the huge push for isekais. And shonen animes that like jumped right into the tournament arc and stuff like that. I'm not gonna lie, My Hero is on the list of things that pushed me slowly out of anime. I just like was not digging it. But the thing is, it's not even those shows' fault. It's my own fault because I started getting old and grumpy. And anytime that there was like a show about like kids in high school who get powers or young youth that have romantic issues or whatever, I'm just like, try paying taxes. Like, I don't care. I don't care that Kiryu doesn't love you back. Like, have you ever had to drive your dog to the vet? Like, these are actual issues.
So what you're saying here is we need an anime that shows you how to fill out your W-2s, 1099s.
That's the slice of life.
The big bad is the IRS. Yeah. There's a tournament arc that you have to work your way through a bunch of accountants to get to the IRS.
Yeah. And then the final arc will be a homeowner's oh my God.
I just want I'm looking forward to the comedy relief deductible fairy that has the whatever annoying catch write off at the end of every one of their
and Jeff Bezos comes out from the darkness. He's just the big bad guy.
Jeff
at the
Bezos
end.
Has to have the Gendo glasses push up, right? He's got to be like just sitting there the whole time. Oh man.
But yeah, it was like that ended up kind of pushing me out, and I think also there was starting to be a big push for really good Western cartoons and stuff. The Steven Universes started coming out. The She-Ra's, like all these kinds of shows that I think were speaking to me as somebody who I don't know. I have a really hard time watching like anything live action. So I started like getting more into those and enjoying those a lot more because they were kind of not doing these sort of samey things like I felt that anime was really doing.
Did you watch Castlevania?
Well, and so that's the thing is Castlevania is what ended up getting me back into it.
Into anime.
And I knew this was going to, because it's like, I don't know. They finally broke the mold for me. It's just like, it didn't feel like the same thing. And the love arc and whatnot that went on between I guess no spoilers or anything, but it was some of the best writing I felt for two sort of characters slowly developing that dynamic. And And then like since then, I've just started like picking up random, like slowly diving in with a lot more like Netflix originals and stuff that are putting. Because some of them are good. Some of them are not so good. I'm like struggling right now to get through High Rise Invasion.
Ooh, that one's bad. That one's bad. That one's really bad.
Yeah, I think I'm like 4 or 5 episodes in, and I'm like, I think I've given this a good enough go.
Have you watched BNA? Because this is something that I found out that not a lot of people have watched because it's behind the Netflix, paywall, right? So, I'm curious. Have you watched BNA?
I've watched the first episode, I think, and then I think I fell off of it. The first episode is solid, but it also kind of felt a little slow and in some ways for me. I don't know. Also, I really don't like the theme song for the show, and I think they kept hitting me with it in ads whenever, like at the end of like a show that I'd be watching, they'd do the BNA ad on Netflix, and they'd be like, "Hey, are you ready to?" And I was like. So I don't know. Maybe it's some sort of spite thing, but
I'm so unnecessarily pumped right now. Come on.
But I did get into Beastars. I haven't finished it, but in kind of that vein, it's been solid. The most recent one that I did finish, even after having the conversation with you, Crim, on Discord, was what was it?
Darwin's
It
Game?
Was hold on. I have it. Darwin's Game. Yes. Yeah. I went through Darwin's Game, and it ended up being good. I think I ended up enjoying it in the end. But like talking to you had said like I got to like episode 5 or something like that. Yeah. And it was just like the main character's not very likable, and like a lot of this just like not a lot of dynamic. Yeah. I mean, I think the problem that character has, like any of these characters that are like getting thrust into some sort of situation that's beyond like their ken, is they spend like 4 or 5 episodes trying to like come to terms with it, and it's just so annoying to listen to, like, how am I in this game? And it's like, dude, you've been in this game for like 5 episodes. Get over it.
Like, you need to do something now, because at the 3rd episode we got things to do.
We got things to do. The episode list, there's only 12. So like, you got to make stuff happen, man.
Yeah. That was the thing. Like I was talking, like, like Xell and we were talking about some other animes, and I think you and I usually give it about like 5 or so episodes, right, Xell? I would say, like, to see where things go.
Yeah. I think most people, like, the thing that people use is like the 3 episode rule or whatever. But I personally, the way I see it is like, even in the first episode, you can kind of get a glimpse into it. Like, sometimes they turn the corner and you're like, oh, okay, and it's now a good show. But like, for the most part, like, your first impression of a show in the first episode, like, it's usually right. I that's how I feel nowadays when I watch stuff, where like the first episode is just like painfully slow. They never get anywhere. They never talk about how the main character is going to approach the problem or whatever. You're like,
if you're just going to shout out Aquatope right now? Jeez, dude. Oh my god.
Oh my god. So like, Benjamin, there's a show called Aquatope, and legitimately the first episode is just like all these picturesque moments where they're just like
beautiful, though,
staring wistfully into the ocean, and it's like, but okay, that's great, but I would also like to know I would like to know which direction this is going to take.
Yeah, I mean, that it's tough though, right? Because it's like, I can sometimes get by if the characters feel sort of medium, but if the concept of the show is really cool, I try to give it like the benefit of the doubt and keep going, because it's like characters can change, but the whole conceit of the show tends to not really, right? So it was like when it came to like Darwin's Game, I was like, this still seems really cool. Like, I like how all like the app and all that kind of jazz is
concept was very interesting, right? Like, it was solid. I agree with you fully there.
Yeah, like the whole like mobile phone game, and it's kind of like The World Ends With You a little bit, where you're like thrust into a universe within the universe, and then you have to fight your way out. It's that concept is always super cool.
I mean, and so like with that, like, it did, honestly, the character, like the main character kind of actually had a Lelouch from Code Geass sort of change, where instead of being a huge wiener. they kind of turned into more of like a planning mastermind, which became kind of neat. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed that aspect. And then it looks like they attempted to set up for another season. I don't think it has been picked up.
Yeah.
No.
But they ended it enough that it was like, it could be a solid ending, or they could keep going if they wanted to.
So I'm kind of curious because I think you have a unique perspective because you came into anime, you kind of saw the scope of things and you're like, isekai, I'm out later, right?
Yeah.
And then you came back and like Castlevania, I think nowadays compared to when we were growing up watching, shows on MTV or
Adult
whatever,
Swim.
I think the breadth of anime has gotten much wider. And so like, kind of what has it been like, I guess, coming back into it and trying to like find some of these things? Because honestly, out of the shows that you listed so far, they're literally from like every which direction, right? Like Castlevania, Darwin's Game, like these are very like polar opposites in my opinion when I think of like the show map. So like what has that been like trying to get back into? Is it like overwhelming, or is it kind of like easy now with Netflix and Crunchyroll and all that?
I think kind of living in a time now where, like I don't have a cable, connection or anything like that, right? Like everything is subscription based, whether it be like Amazon or Netflix. So having direct access to all of these has been helpful in that regard.
Yeah.
What I do enjoy is that
People who are on audio only will never get to enjoy this, but I'll also subscribe to our YouTube channel because you'll get to see this. But
but yeah, like it's having access to all these different things. What's helped me is so many people are taking different cracks in terms of like art style and musical style and all that kind of jazz. What I think actually maybe it came out before, or maybe it was just a little bit after. But Netflix did Dorohedoro as a show, and that whole thing is just so completely my jam that honestly it probably is my favorite thing since sort of coming back into it. Castlevania is like up there, but I try for the most part to look into more of the horror sort of genre when it comes to things that involve like, even if it's just like murder or any of those kinds of things. Like I have not dived into any of the like feel good shonen kind of stuff or anything like that. Like it's been for the most part that sort of style of show. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely helpful that Netflix is just like pumping these things out and greenlighting so many things.
Though, as you'd mentioned that Netflix is greenlighting things, I think because like I too am a lover of the horror genre, and I want more horror in the world of anime. Because like it's like odd that we talked about it before. It's how horror actually is like really bad in anime. Like
there's not a lot of good ones.
There's really
isn't.
not.
I
There's really not.
I think the last actual horror that I really watched was probably like Corpse Party, like way back, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
But there's also like the kind of short form Yamishibai. I think that's the one where
I've
it's
heard
just
of
like
that
little like kind of vignettes of horror. But I don't know. I haven't found that like actual horror thing lately.
Well, luckily for us horror lovers, Netflix is actually now putting out something this upcoming year. They're doing 2 new horror animated things. One of them, I believe, it's like, I forgot the name of it, but it's a new horror anime that's going to be serialized. And there's going to be a horror anime movie in space. So I'm kind
everything's scarier in space.
Yeah, and of course, because no one can hear you scream in space. But
I mean, it worked for Jason, right?
Yes, the premier horror space movie when I think of space horror, Jason X. but like legit, that is okay. I'm very curious then. So, have you watched Jujutsu Kaisen?
No, you recommended it. But I don't have.
You can slide into my DMs. All right?
Yeah, for the longest time, a lot of my anime watching was done. I had a friend who had a subscription to Crunchyroll, and I just used his subscription for years. He gave me the thing, and even after we stopped talking and weren't friends. He never changed his password or any of that stuff. So I was just like watching all these kinds of things, and I'm surprised he didn't catch on with like the fact that it goes into like your recently watched queue and stuff on there. So yeah, I got away with a lot of free anime watching, but I didn't even look where to find it. But you recommended it, so I should definitely check it out.
I think
you will love it. I think if you like the horror sort of thing, I definitely recommend Jujutsu Kaisen. It's
all right.
It's bucketed into sort of the feel good shonen thing, but it definitely feels a lot darker in terms of art style and what they deal with. So I think that's a good one.
And the way they the storytelling is a lot like horror-esque. Right, like at any point it could flip the switch and become a horror anime, or it could stay like this kind of like just cool, fun shonen anime. So it's pretty sweet, and I enjoy it. Like, 'cause people always think, well, what about Tokyo Ghoul? I don't actually like Tokyo Ghoul.
I haven't watched it, but I think it was because I used to do, before I started doing like the streaming thing. I used to be part of an improv group, and we would go around Canada performing at various anime conventions. That's how I got started.
Do you have any videos of this?
We would probably on it's Synaptic Chaos Theater was the name of the group, but like we would hit, like, there was Animathon in Edmonton where I am from before I moved, and then we would go over to like the BC, and then go down to like other sort of like over into Toronto and whatnot, and that's how I ended up getting a bigger sort of vibe of the anime culture. And
I'm surprised you didn't run away screaming.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. When Tokyo Ghoul took off, so many cosplays with the mask and all that stuff, and I'm like,
that was me.
I feel like I can't watch this out of principle.
Oh man, I bought one of those masks and I felt so cool.
It's like I read the synopsis for the show.
I didn't do
and
the
it
pose.
seems awesome.
That show.
Yeah, that show is not great.
I mean, that being said, I actually just realized too, on Netflix for horror, there like Parasite is on there too.
Oh, yes.
Which is like a totally solid one as well.
You and I have very similar tastes.
The same wavelength.
We're like on like we're like
actually
locked in, right? Like
that makes me a little scared for you, Ben, because Crim's taste in anime is generally pretty poor. So
oh yeah, I mean that extends beyond anime.
Oh weird! I didn't know I brought everybody on to roast me. Hold on, wait a minute.
Isn't that just everybody you meet?
Yeah. Fair. Hey, I mean, when the bar is set, are you killing people? All right, cool. You know,
before you made the Final Fantasy swap over, I rated in WoW with you, so I know all the secrets.
Yes, I will play the worst class in the entire game.
Oh yeah. In your game too? Cool.
Crim has poor taste in magic, in gaming, and in anime.
I think my
triple
time's
hitter
done
right
here.
there.
I think my time's done. You say what you want about me, you leave frost mages out of this. They're always number one.
If Lur does that anime podcast, just my DMs are open. Just saying, maybe not Crim's, but
Oh man. Okay.
Horror anime is so interesting though, because it's like I remember trying to get into Dead Man Wonderland, and I just could not get through the whole thing. It was because I think it also suffered from like the main character who just took way too long to get with the program, and I just couldn't deal with it.
I think for somebody who's on the periphery of anime, there's just a couple of like common pitfalls I think that just keeps people out, and like I think that is 100% one of them. It's just like anime, for some reason the way they storytell can be so painful, and like I think one of the things that I guess like coming from a Western side of things, I literally just got back from watching Shang-Chi, right? Like the movie, and like good movie writing. I mean, it happens, right? Like, and even in good shows, first episode, exactly what the character is, and then who they must become to overtake the thing. Like it just drives the thing forward. But in anime, oh my God, do they love just hanging out with their friends doing nothing. And I think that's like, it's tough. I think sometimes when you're trying to get into it and you're like, do I have to sit through this again, you know, for another show where it seems like nothing happens for so long? And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's something behind the Netflixes and the various, you know, streaming programs that are greenlighting these various animes. It usually seems like they're coming at it from an angle of, you get 10 episodes to tell your story, so budget your time well. And it's like maybe why a lot of the ones that are coming out on there, I find myself enjoying, because they try to get right into the meat and potatoes of the show as quickly as possible, or at least they have a planned arc and with no necessarily guarantee that they're going to get another season to continue telling it. So they need to try and get everything packaged into a nice bundle.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting with like the Netflix stuff too, is visual design wise too. I think they've also been probably more variety than like I think the standard sort of affair, right? Like we talked about Parasite, we talked about Castlevania, we talked about Beastars. Like they all have tremendously different animation styles than like, I guess like what you would call like the typical like Sword Art Online looking things, where like everyone sort of has that same color palette, everyone's just got a different color hair thing, and everyone generally looks the same. But like I think Netflix it feels like they push for having a variety of looking things. Like I personally loved Devilman Crybaby, for example, and like the art style on that was also very unique and interesting, and I feel like Netflix really sets themselves apart with that.
Yeah, I mean Yasuke came out recently as well too, and that they really first off, they subverted the crap out of my expectation. I didn't think it was going to go all magic-y. I thought it was going to be a little bit more realistic, but but the art style was like super duper cool. They went beyond, I think, just the storytelling of the characters and did a lot of really good like music and stuff. So kind of like sent me back to like Samurai Champloo sort of vibes in terms of like just, I guess, the overarching feel of the show. So yeah, there's a lot more experimentation, it feels like, now happening, you know, with me sort of coming back and seeing these sort of things. I think that's really what's gotten me back into it. Because just like, you know, skirting past all of the like, you know, is it wrong to pick up a girl in a dungeon and the My Life as a Slime and like all these kinds of shows that like are, it's like cool, I guess, you know, like I get it. I loved Sword Art Online. I get it. I watched the heck out of it. But it just started not feeling like I could do this again and again. It's like, yes, you know, you get transported into a thing. Again. I think, honestly, the final straw show for me before I walked away for like, and was like, I'm just going to watch, you know, the Steven universes of it was, is it Yotsuba? With the explosion mage, the one.
Oh,
Konosuba.
Wait.
Oh no! Wait, Crim, I love that show.
I know he does. The amount of times he's taken a picture of his room, and I've seen his wall scroll of the mage and whatnot. I was just like, man. It was because I couldn't take the paladin character seriously. Like
Darkness is great.
I couldn't deal with it, man. It just made me so supremely uncomfortable. And it's like, I know that like it like got better, and like I gotta say, a mage that only learns explosive magic and like that's it is such a cool character. Like I love that, but I fell off, and yeah, maybe I just hit a cranky age where I was like, ugh, harems, they're just horrible. I hate all this, and I don't know, but it feels like more they're experimenting a lot more, which has kind of gotten me back really into it.
Is there any way I could convince you to watch it again?
There's even a movie now based off the explosion mage. So
okay.
You know what, Crim? You guys brought me onto your show as a courtesy to you. After I'm done watching Jujutsu Kaisen, I will attempt to watch Konosuba.
But this is how we've
all
been.
the speakers in my room way down, and only when my partner's not home.
Look at her doing the old double take. Is she home? They home? Are they home? Hold on.
Am I allowed to play this anime where every time the woman gets hit, she goes, ah?
Okay. I do understand why that would make you slightly uncomfortable, but she is a funny character, and the show is kind of a spoof on isekais, right? Like it's very self-aware. It came out, I think, and that's why I loved it so much, because I was right where you were with the exhaustion of like isekais and being reborn into another world. So they definitely made a lot of fun on that. So I think you would like it.
I just imagine it as like a D&D group that got together to make silly characters, you know, and like, you know,
I mean,
I'm a tank that likes getting hit, you know.
Yeah, but like, didn't they do? I haven't watched it, but a friend of mine, his name's Beej. He's big. He does like an anime review podcast and stuff like that. But like, he recommended a show where it was like the conceit is the girl is in the isekai and she just dumps all of her points into defense. And
Oh,
she's just
yes,
like a complete
Bofuri.
tank.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I heard good things
enjoyed
about
that
that. Okay. But what's interesting though is like I'd say I will credit isekais with giving me the like bullshit meter, I guess, on like how much I can stand characters doing what we've been talking about, like not being able to deal with the situation they're in, right? Like I can stomach it for a couple episodes and it's fine, but like the show that cemented that you can do a really good story with the characters getting thrown into a really good weird situation was Log Horizon for me, because while the show didn't end up, I think there was like all this like production problems and whatnot with it, the characters came around to their situation fairly quickly. Like there was like an episode or two where they're like, oh my God, we're trapped in the video game, right? But then like by episode 2 or 3, they're like, cool, let's figure out how we're going to deal with this whole situation. We're going to live in this world. We don't know how long we're going to be in. So I appreciated the fact that, you know, we could get along with telling the tale as opposed to me focusing on this one character's inability to deal with their situation.
We're starting to see more isekais where they're starting to kind of like pick up immediately. Like it's like, okay, we're not going to wait around. But those ones are the ones where it's like a slice of life. Like, like it's like an isekai in another world. You're in another world, but then you're like, instead of being the main character, I'm gonna be a farmer. You know what I mean? That's, like
I had a roommate when I first moved to Victoria that his perfect anime is, you know, character that is way too powerful. You know, the One Punch Man.
Oh yes,
power level. Who opens an onsen, or the devil is a part timer, like the way too high power level character who just wants to do their normal day thing. That was like their go-to anime kind of a thing, and I'm totally behind them on that.
There was actually an anime that came out not that long ago where it was basically that, where this girl gets isekai'd and she died in her past life from being overworked. And so in her new life, she was like, you know what? I'm going to take it easy. I'm just going to hunt some slimes every once in a while and whatnot. Well, so what happens is she's immortal. And so 300 years later, she accumulates enough XP hitting slimes that she's now the most powerful being on the world. And so now she's having to deal with the fact that now she's overly powerful. People know about her, and all she wants to do is sit at home and and beat up slimes. And so I thought the concept of that one was super good. Unfortunately, it did turn into just other isekai nonsense.
I mean, there's something fun about the writing of like fight scenes and stuff like that, where you know that there is literally no way that the protagonist is going to lose this battle. Yeah. So how do you make this fight scene or this problem going on interesting? And that's just such a cool dynamic for me when it comes to writing, because it's like, I think at this point, you know, when we're like in our 30s, that we've watched so many anime fight scenes, right? Like we've watched so many over the years. So I really love seeing how they try and subvert it, whether it be through the music or through the art style and stuff. Like, I think it was, to plug a non-anime, I was watching Owl House recently.
What?
and it's a very good show. But what's really cool is when they're doing the show, it's at a certain kind of like art style and frame rate. But when they kick into a fight, it gets the animation's way smoother. You see a lot more of the smudge frames and stuff when it's going on. But it's just like a lot of shows have been doing that recently. So you can show me a Rasengan 10 times and I'll be like, okay, that's cool. But like by the 11th time, I'm like, all right, I need something different, man.
Yeah, and like in Naruto too, it was not just Rasengan, but all the variations of Rasengan.
Dude,
It's the same thing,
how many
man.
shadow clones you have in your backhand going doing the thing. It's still just a ball of light that you hit people with, or chi or whatever, man. And then it's like, oh, all right. And then Sasuke's gonna have the same thing, but we'll get lightning bolts coming off of it.
Different.
See it coming,
Sorry,
man.
different.
So different. That is very different. Different
Yeah,
ball
yeah.
of light.
Chidori is nothing like Rasengan.
I now know, after hearing everything you just said, though, you are definitely going to enjoy Jujutsu Kaisen because
Sick.
there are. Let's just go with the filler episode is brilliantly done. Let's just go with that, and you'll love it.
Okay,
You'll
that's
love
cool.
it.
I mean, I got through Fate Stay Night, so I'm up for anything.
It's very rare that you get to see like filler like episodes and stuff like that be enjoyable, but like you're gonna love Jujutsu Kaisen. I can't wait to hear what you think of that show once you get through it.
The thing is like filler episodes, I feel like get like that super bad rap kind of
Right.
thing. But if you write the characters well enough, I'm more stoked for the filler episodes half the time than like the actual like plot
Yeah.
progression, right? I just want to be around these dudes like doing their thing.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah. So you're.
So
oh,
I'm here for those.
It's gonna be yeah.
Okay,
I think
all
you're
right.
gonna like Jesus Kaisen a lot.
It's gonna hit every box that you have right now. I don't want to overhype it for you, so because it's like I don't want you to like think like you're having an out of body experience or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna get through the show and then I'm gonna go to the YouTube and be like, "Do not watch this show. They recommended it to me. Lies,
sucks.
all of it."
These guys are hacks. They don't know what they're talking about. This is awful. Yeah.
And that Konosuba show.
Don't get me started.
I would be less offended if you if you're like Konosuba's not for me.
That gets the pass.
I'd be less offended.
Cool.
I could totally see it. Yeah, because like I don't know. I think to if I take a step back from me, who is an avid anime watcher and have watched 10 series each season for how long now, it's just kind of interesting to see like. You take a step back and you're like, oh, what are all the weird ways that anime could just like lose people? And it's like, yeah, like Konosuba, if you've got a girl just moaning all the time, you're like, okay, maybe not that one. Or you have, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, like we talked about slow narrative. I'm trying to think of like other like anime pitfalls that happen that just like bring people completely out of it, because
I mean,
there's a lot of them, but I at this point I'm so jaded and I can just like stomach through it. You know what I mean? Like
I did a panel at PAX. I want to say it was PAX South or PAX East, with a friend, Pat Bear. And the conceit of the whole thing was just we got up on stage and we screamed about our favorite like animes that we want people to go watch. Mm-hmm. And the part of like the writing process that we had for it was you talked about what was great about the show and the things that you enjoyed, and then for every show we talked about the Mineta of the show, the what is the problem, or what are like the trigger warnings and stuff that you should put for that, right? And so I think a lot of animes had it, and I with My Hero, it's the Mineta of the
Mineta
right?
effect.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hate Mineta so much.
Yeah, but there's so not every anime has that kind of thing, but there's always like maybe the one or two things which for some part too might just be because of a difference in societies too, right? Like what might be societal norms in Japan and whatnot, maybe don't hit as well here, kind of a thing. But for the most part, like though there's those are like the standout things, but we've I think like just kept repeating like the character's inability to grasp the situation that they're in, and that takes way too long. I think that's another big pitfall too.
Oh, you'd hate the show that I've been watching called Tokyo Revengers, where, like, okay, so I don't know if you know anything about the show, but essentially this guy has the power to go back in time, and he's trying to solve like middle school gang wars to save his like then girlfriend's life, right? That's the synopsis. And like basically they're in the present time, and the guy he's with, he's like, okay, this is the bad guy. His name is Kisaki. He is the bad guy. He's like, okay, got it. He goes back in time, and then Kisaki like walks by, and then they do the whole like, who was that? I don't remember. You're just like, dude, he just told you.
Literally just told you.
And then like other characters back in time are also like, that guy's definitely up to no good. And he's like, oh, really? Oh, you're just like, you're so frustrated at the main character's inability to, it's just, and God, it's just so frustrating, right? That's the experience. It's just, you're just frustrated that the main character just is not adept at all, and has no redeeming factors.
I was more lenient on the main character originally, like, cause like Xell was like already kind of fed up by episode 12 but with him, and I was like, all right, well, we'll see if he gets any better. And around episode 20, the thing here is whether he's not able to assess this, like the threats in the situation, or like he's also unable to get better as a character. He's just in this Shinji mode, like where he just sits and cries the whole time. And how I would describe the show is that it's like a time traveling Green Street Hooligans, right? That's what it started off as. And then it became a super powered Green Street Hooligans. Because
so it's Baccano is what you're telling me.
Like the main character's ability to whine actually became a superpower in the show. So
I feel like that's them being self-aware at that point.
Oh God! And this is what I'm saying is like I've built up such a tolerance to these things that I have sat through 20 episodes, and I what am I doing with my life? Why am I here?
I mean, if you're doing it what you love, then you're never working a day in your life. So
true.
But I don't love that main character.
I do not love him.
Like, oh man,
that extends though to like so much entertainment in general, though, right? Like, I mean, because whether it be like the tropes of anime or the tropes of like Western cartoons or any of those kinds of even like live action stuff, right? Like there are those things that will definitely push people off. I recently watched like Centaur World, which is a great show, but has a lot of just pointless yelling. Like we're talking like SpongeBob SquarePants early years, like levels of just we're making noise for the sake of making noise, right? So I think it's not exempt, but what's neat about anime for me lately has just been they're trying to tell so many different kinds of stories.
Yeah.
And it's not just, the so and so is transported to another world, or the here are teens who have superpowers and are at school, or those kinds of things. And there was that. These all existed. Like there wasn't some major shift necessarily, but I think it was what was being sort of pushed to the ease of access for people who were not like myself, who weren't as ingrained into the society of it, right? Like I didn't have a Crunchyroll account. I wasn't checking out like the blog posts or forums, or like checking out any of those kinds of things. So it was basically whatever would be shoved in front of my face. I was like, well, this is what's popular. And, I'd go to conventions and I'd be like seeing like whatever is the flavor of the month anime, and everybody's cosplaying. And I'd be like, I don't really enjoy that kind of thing. So I guess I'm just still not into anime. So what really drove it was the ones that were being pushed forward seemed more interesting. They had different stories to tell.
Gotcha. Yeah, I recently, I told Crim to watch this one too. Vinland Saga is one that's about like Vikings of all things. And I've never been into Vikings at all. And so I was like sort of turned off from the show from the get-go. But then I watched it, and it was just, you think of it as being like, oh yeah, it's going to be shonen, but Vikings. But it ended up being very like dramatic with deep characters. And it was just like a fresh breath of air, and it just felt so different. And yeah, I don't know. I think like in a lot of ways currently it does feel like we're in sort of a golden era in terms of accessibility, in terms of like the sheer variety that anime brings. Like at this point, like I think a lot of people talk about anime like it's just a genre, but in reality, anime is just a medium, right? And through that medium, genres can be expressed. And so, I don't know. I think one of the cool things is, even though I do wade through a ton of, isekais or whatever it is, like there's always a show that I find that I'm like, oh wow, like this is different. This is really cool and interesting. And so I think that's really fun about anime these days.
There's a lot, right? Because like when we were growing up, there's like 3 animes that we could watch. Now we're at a point.
It was what it was ever on TV.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So now we've got like 10,000 animes every month that's coming out, and like it sucks because sometimes you're gonna gloss over the hidden gems. And I right now, I think like Sunny Boy is one of those things. It's a cool art style. It's a sci-fi kind of show, and it sucks. I'm pretty sure that's gonna get looked over, and that's that. So I don't know. Like this is kind of one of those things where I think maybe there's such a thing as too much anime coming out at once.
I mean, we're in the golden age of media in general, right? Like
that's true. That's
everything, whether it be video games or any of that, right? Like I think anybody can look at their pile of shame on like Steam or something like that and be like, man, I just keep buying Humble Bundle sales, man. It going to a good cause, but I don't even know I bought every single Sakura game, but it's there, right?
There was like a 2-year span where every Humble Bundle I'd be like, well, why not?
It's for a good cause. It's $14.
I'm losing money by not buying today,
and I gave to charity and feel good, and I get like 7 video games out of it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. My Steam library is a graveyard. I literally had to separate out a category of like, this is my graveyard and I will not look at this. It's that's my folder of shame. Like I one day I'll attempt to play all these games, but not now.
I have so many games on my Steam account that are just like, they have like 30 seconds played. You can tell I opened it, played the tutorial, closed it, went back, like did something else. There is definitely a graveyard. So I mean, is that intimidating though? Like, I'm very curious because like, you got back into it, right? And one of the biggest things is, I would say I dipped out a little bit, I think around 2013, 2014, right? I kind of like phased in and out at that point. And then like getting back in, just leaving for a year, I felt like there was so much coming back to. I was like kind of intimidated, right? Like, oh, whoa, I'm like already 2,000 episodes behind on this show. So like, how'd that feel? Like, I mean,
There's definitely the weird factor of coming back into anime and going over to your friends and being like, hey, like what's cool? What should I be watching? What do you recommend? And people are being like, oh, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. You got to watch this. And you're like, okay, like this is a lot coming at me. And then you try out one of them and then you're like, oh, this is going kind of like slow. Like I'm not feeling it. And the consistent like, oh, don't worry. You got to keep watching. It's going to get really good. It's like, it's the Final Fantasy 14 of just watching anime, right? But what is cool is that like I know it's this weird rap to say, right? Like, but like Netflix has super helped me. Like I ended up watching great shows like Your Lie in April and stuff off of that, right? Like. But that's the thing is like it's so cool because it's like I would watch Your Lie in April and then I would be like, all right, now I'm gonna start Parasite and like the complete tonal shift.
Yeah,
but they're these good stories that they picked to put on their platform, and it's like if it performs badly, they're like bye, and they kick it off the platform, which is like sad, but at the same time, from a consumption standpoint of watching the shows, if it's stuck around there, I'm fairly certain, Parasite I probably watched like 3 years ago or something like that. It's still there, like able to be watched and stuff. I know that FMA Brotherhood was like on there for years and years and years, and then I think they finally just lost like the royalty or the rights to it, right? So it's nice in that way that there's an ease of access to watch it, and that if it's there, it's probably going to be pretty good, and if it's not very good, you're probably not going to see it later. So
okay. Yeah, because like I mean that was the biggest thing, right? Like getting back in and then just like being overwhelmed. So like I mean, and for you, what was your process? Like did you how did you pick the first one to get like back into? Like,
so I am a huge fan of like the horror genre, like as you know we were saying, right? So like I actually didn't end up watching Castlevania until I think the 3rd season was coming out. So it took me like a while to kind of get into that. So I think Castlevania and Dorohedoro were like my first dives into it because stylistically Dorohedoro looked amazing. And also I'm a huge sucker for the OPs for shows. If you have a good OP, I might stomach a bad show just to deal, just so I can keep listening to the OP of it. I watched all the way through, what is it? The Saga of Tanya, whatever. Because the show, super medium. The intro, banger, man. I loved it. So it's just like, yeah, I'll sometimes stomach a bad show if it's got a really good OP.
If you're looking for a good OP before anything, the show you can be 50-50 on. It's Fire Force. Check out the opening intro to that song, that show.
I think I watched like the first or second episode a long time ago, and I think I got a couple episodes in, and it was around the time where I was like, ugh, man, I don't like this My Hero Academia show.
Yeah.
And I just got like major similar vibes from it kind of a thing. So I was like, well, I'm probably gonna hate this too. Anyways, back to being mad about taxes and all that kind of jazz, and being this cynical, late 20s dude.
But the music is fire. I love that song. So I just think you should, like that song alone is really good. But yeah, what were you gonna ask, Xell?
Oh, I was gonna say, well, we have to put you through some judgment here, and I was gonna ask you, like, what are your top favorite OPs?
Oh, my top. Okay, actually, let me pull up I have a YouTube playlist where I save.
It's just Naruto AMVs of Linkin Park.
Yep, all right.
I would say Shippuden's silhouette from Kanaboon.
Yes,
right up on there.
That one's great.
Potentially my favorite. Also, the ending, Kimi no Mo. It's an ending for I think like the first season of Shippuden. It's the one with like the book that's like flipping through that like size book. I think it's called Kimi no Motagari. I'm just butchering it. Absolutely.
Can't butcher any worse than I've pronounced some titles, so you'll be fine.
That's a really good ending. There was a, oh God, I don't know if I could, can I just do like 10 like in no order?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have, there was a show called Tower of Druaga, which it was also kind of an isekai vibe, where I think the characters were very aware that it was like a video game, but it was just the world. And there was no like we got transported here, it was just the world.
Gotcha.
So there, and its opening was from a ska band called Muramasa, and the opening was called Swinging. So that's on there. Then we have Death Parade.
Flyers Radio. That one's good.
Oh God. Okay. Now I'm just like really like picking and choosing the ones from here. I actually made like a big Twitter thread too about it. There was a anime called, oh God, the one about the fantasy park. It was a theme park that people could go to.
Oh,
and there was
Dead Man Wonderland.
No,
it's the comedy, right?
It's a comedy. Like all the characters that are working at the theme park are actual fantasy creatures.
I know exactly what you're talking about. What's the name for that? But yeah, the intro to that show is good.
Yeah, half of my my YouTube playlist actually is deleted videos now. I guess I made this so long ago. Okay, here we go. Now I've got my Twitter thread where I made it. Cool. So, Jungle wa Itsumo from Hare no Chigu. The deluxe opening is
Amagi Brilliant banger. Park.
Oh,
yes, thank you. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. So that's on there. I also have the opening for Terraformars was a solid banger. Soul Eater's Paper Moon, the second season opener.
Love that song.
The ending for Bungo Stray Dogs, the first season.
Yep.
There is going into this is where you're seeing like the absolute me bouncing all over in terms of genre, because Kofuku Graffiti, which was just a slice of life anime about a girl going to live with her cousin and they cook stuff. So Kofuku Graffiti's opening is really, really good. And I'm trying to find more of the bangers here. Hold on. No, that video is broken. Okay, who knows what that was? The opening for www.working I have on this list.
Wait,
Tonori knows
what?
The main thing I'm learning from this list here is that Ben is incredibly deep into anime in a way that for someone to say like, oh, I gave it up for a few years. I'm like, wait, what? When did you ever leave that?
Dude, I was getting into like a lot of like, it wasn't like a full on leap, but it was just like I just really could not jive with like anything. And it was like picking up little things here or there. The last one I would say that was a recommendation from my friend is Girls Last Tour. The opening for that is really cute, only because midway through both of the characters dab during the intro. Yeah,
I think I heard it for a second.
Yeah, so I guess just sort of all over the place. I don't know if I hit some of like the normal bangers, but I have an actual like Twitter thread that I made that I was just like, I'm just going to post all my favorite ones. And, because it is my favorite anime, Beck Mongolian's Chop Squad intro is, still absolutely fantastic. Holds up.
There's definitely some deep cuts there, and I mean the fact that you just reminded me of Amagi like Brilliant Park, like I forgot about that, and that show is like drop dead hilarious.
Yeah, it was like totally fine, but that's the thing is like these shows, I think just about every single one that I've said was either on like Netflix, really easy to like get, or was just like a cursory, like you Google it and it was like free to watch somewhere or something. So I didn't ever have to, I guess, dive into it, and the weird shows stuck with me because they had a banger intro, and I went, all right, cool, I'm gonna keep watching this.
I mean, so then last, I guess, you know what? There's one last thing I'd like to ask, because we're now getting in on closing time here. Did you see the live action Cowboy Bebop stuff?
I did. I popped off very, very hard. I mean, what is exciting to me is that they nailed the casting for Ein. I think absolutely best thing that they could do there. Definitely a hard character to cast.
Yep.
Interesting that like I didn't watch the trailer. Like I just like looked at the stills and stuff like that.
I don't know if there's a trailer. I only saw the
so
pictures.
It was all just stills?
Yeah.
Okay. But there's no Ed, and that bummed me out.
Same.
Because I really like Ed. So hopefully maybe that's just like, something that like, because I mean, Ed for the most part like was kind of, I guess, more of a bit character, like was part of the crew, but like they came and left, throughout the show. So yeah. I could see them not wanting to put them like front and center on like the stills, but like Ein is like one of the most memorable characters. So it's like,
yes.
And has that cuteness factor, right? It's like, yeah, you can show me Spike and like it'll be amazing and I'll be really, really excited about it, but corgi.
I mean, there is one main like contributing factor to why I have a corgi, right? And
one of my mods for my Twitch channel literally has a corgi named Ein, so it's like it's a very beloved thing.
Yeah. So I was like very curious what you thought about that, like overall. So it's good. Like, do you think it'll be good? I think so. Xell and I have this bet. We have a Boba bet. Yeah, we have a Boba bet. I think this is gonna be the first live action that I'm gonna like, that I think it's actually good. I mean, it's lining up to be that way because first off, I think the costume designs were fine. I think the only issue I had was that Spike's costume is like his suit is unscathed after fighting everything. It's like, dude, I don't know who your dry cleaners are, but they are gods. Like
it's a little too clean. Like that. I think it's because like you see the stills and it's just like until you see a trailer, it just looks like really dope cosplay.
Yeah.
I think, and that's kind of what like brings me out of it a little bit. I love the decisions that they made with Faye. I think it's a functional outfit, which is way better.
What?
Yeah,
Hold
like
on.
like
in
it's
space? Why would she?
I know, who'd have thought, right? Like, God, I love every like Twitter thread that like where people like talk about it or whatever, and it'll usually be filled with either the cosplayers going in or the cosplayer's significant other who has to help the people who have cosplayed as Faye Valentine with like glue and like and a stitching kit and all that kind of jazz.
Perfect for bounty hunting, you know?
It was like it was a costume designed to fall apart.
Yeah. I mean, that's like why. Like, I think it's gonna be good, right? Like
I'm with you.
The Faye costume looks solid. I thought it was it definitely still captures the Faye Valentine vibes, the color schemes, everything. It makes sense, right? And then
you knew who it was the moment you looked at it.
Oh yeah,
you were never confused.
Yeah, right. So yeah, and I mean, I'm definitely with you. I have not watched a live action adaptation that I've enjoyed yet. I've been like, this is neat. You know, I was entertained, I guess, but none of the ones that I'm like, yo, you have to go watch this, right? Like you're not running to tell somebody that they need to go watch the Death Note live action, right? Like
in a way, that movie was entertaining.
Well,
because it was like watching a train wreck, right? It's like, oh, that's bad.
It's entertaining when you're going to B movie horror night, like if you want the cheese factor, but like it's not going to be the thing that you're running home to tell everybody about. So I'm inclined to agree. John Cho is awesome.
Great choice.
Such a good actor. You know, I
love Jet. And here, the reason why I think Ed isn't here yet, by the way, to kind of like elaborate on that, I think is because if it's a TV show, it's not a movie, it's a TV show. So that's somebody that's probably going to just get introduced later on.
Yeah,
right?
Like that's
so,
what I was saying. Yeah, it was just like they're a character that came in later in the show, and then they also take off later in the show, right?
So that I assume they're going to just probably follow that, right? And so right now this is looking really good to me because they've shown that they're paying attention to every minor detail. They even went back and got like the person who worked on the opener, right? The score. So
the original score.
Yeah.
God, do you think they're just gonna play tank, or do you think they're gonna do a whole new thing?
I hope we don't get like dubstep tank or something like that. Like because I'm gonna be pissed. Give me a new version. Don't do any like Marvel. They do like the remixes of old songs. They turn it creepy and it works for Marvel. But like if I hear a dubstep or a creepy tank, I'm gonna be upset.
I'd be okay with them just alluding to it, you know. If they wanted to do a new song, like I'm for it, but maybe like they have a bar scene and it's just like playing in the background.
Yeah, that's fine.
That'd be a good nod. Yeah, I mean they're probably gonna do like a couple Easter eggs and stuff like that throughout the show. But like even if they did something in the same style, right? Because I think a lot of the like animes that do like the big band style shows, like those are also openings that stick with me. You know, like Baccano's opening is solid. Beastar's opening also like super solid. Like they have such a different vibe than a lot of the shows that kind of do like the anime intro that anime parodies make fun of, like the
pop punk rock,
rock ones.
I love those intros.
I mean, dude,
me too.
The first one I said was Canaboon's Silhouette, right? Like I'm there with you.
I haven't stopped guitar jumping. All right, give me a minute. All right.
I'm the guy who for the charity event I work for, where we do random dance parties, I'm still pumping like Kyaru Pamu into it every time, and I will never stop.
Dude, that song's a jam. That is actually
a jam. Pon never dies.
Yeah.
We shall carry that torch on into the next generation for sure.
For sure. So okay. So like this is cool. I actually I think this was a good talk, a good discussion, because we got to see what it was a lot like for somebody getting back into anime who had kind of stepped away, and anything else you want to bring up or talk about, Xell, before our closing thoughts.
No, I just still feel like I got blindsided. I thought Ben was gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I've never really watched anime before," and he comes in here just dropping series left and right. And I was gonna have to be like, I thought I was gonna come in here and be like, "Okay, so this is what a shonen is."
You know, let's restart it, and I'll just play dumb like the whole time. And be like,
We told you not to flex that hard on the note. I don't know if you got that.
Because in my brain, I guess, like I was like, okay, Ben's someone who got into anime, just like tried 2 shows and was like, nah, screw this, and I'm out. But no, it's actually the opposite. Ben has seen so much that he's just exhausted from it.
Well, I guess like in the early stages, right? Though it's like because like I mentioned like a bunch of like these random kind of shows that I end up watching and whatnot, but like that's. I'm the kind of person that I will consume. When I messaged you about Darwin's game, Crim, I finished it in 2 days. Like I watched the whole thing in like one, and so that's how like I consume it, right? So it's like if I watch an entire season of a show in like a day or two, and then I just like leave or whatever, like that's kind of what it was like I would consume a show really, really quickly and then be like, all right, nothing's is interesting to me. See you next year. And like just kind of like poke my head in each like anime season and be like, something cool in here? No? All right, I'm gonna go watch Steven Universe. It's like, peace out. Kind of. But yeah, I don't know. It's been really, really cool seeing how I think accessibility is just like the name of the game right now. Like it's so easy to consume all these cool new shows. And also it's not weird to like to watch anymore, right? Like there was definitely like I grew up like always taking the bus or like long trips to get to work and whatnot. So I was always like, I don't want to watch anime on the bus. People are going to look at me like I'm some sort of weirdo.
We all hit it, right? We all hit our
just like, underneath there, right? With being like, well, is watching this episode of Naruto worth $20 in data charges on my phone? I don't know. But like, but now it's just like, yeah, you have a limited data plan or whatever. And I'm just like watching everything as I go. So it's just like, yeah, it's so much easier to consume. And it helps that there's such a more accessible like variety. It's not just the shonens, it's not just the isekais like that are just like easy to hop on into. It's everything. So that's been really cool and helpful to get back in.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of does it for our episode today. This was super fun, dude. It was actually super fun to just chat and talk about anime. I mean,
literally, I think like the last time I was able to hang out with the both of you at the same time was like when we played Monster Hunter together. And I'm genuinely just always looking for an excuse to get us like all in the same room hanging out. So this was a treat. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for
schooling
talking
us.
Anime. Yeah,
so if you guys ever want to know more about anime,
where can we check out more anime stuff?
So my exclusive stream where I lure people in with my anime knowledge, you can find me over at twitch.tv/Bengineering doing magic streaming and all kinds of things, as well as over at Loading Ready Run.
Where you can also watch him say, oh, this is my first time playing X game. Oh, it turns out he's actually really good, by the way.
Oh man, I'm that guy though that it's like we're gonna play this board game for the first time and I'm going to like Geek and Sundry and like all these things. I'm like, what's the strategy here? How many workers do I need to place down before I'm gonna be able to beat them all? And then they're just like, I'm like, oh, I got this card. I wonder if it's any good.
Well, again, thank you so much for being part of the Nii-San Podcast, and be sure everyone who's listening to go check out his Twitch channel, check out Loading Ready Run, you catch all their magic content and whatnot, and also enlightened anime opinions as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Ben, again, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.
All right, sweet. That was fun.